Never understood why y'all call that football. What it means 72 degrees? Why y'all put so many ice in the drinks? This is as big as my head. And it's really sweet. Bonjour Frenchies, ça va? Hope everybody is doing well today. As you may know, I'm a French girl living here in the United States for a while now, and even if I love this country from the bottom of my heart, the United States is still so weird and so confusing for me. Like a lot of Europeans, I grew up with a strong American influence. We grew up with American music, American movies, American TV shows. Yes, I grew up with Hannah Montana and High School Musical. Okay, even if I grew up with an American influence and I love the United States overall, there's stuff that you guys are doing that are still so confusing to me as a French living here in the United States. And if you want me to be honest, I think it's confusing for the rest of the world. First one, not using the metric system. In France, like the majority of the world, we're using the metric system because it's logic. I mean, do you guys know why Americans don't use the metric system? Well, it's simple. It's only because Thomas Jefferson said
Nope.
no. Well, in 1790, when the metric system was being developed everywhere in the world, he decided to not bring it to America. Why? We don't know. But now that Thomas Jefferson is long dead, why not switching and just bringing the metric system to the US? Well, first of all, it will cost a lot of money, and second of all, it will be super confusing for everybody that grew up outside of the metric system. However, a lot of Americans that I know personally thinks that not using the metric system here in the States is pretty stupid. The tipping culture. French people hate the tipping culture here in the States, and it's just confusing for us because in our country the system is totally different. I know tipping is a big part of the American service culture, and I know for a fact that you guys are not the only country using that. By the way, if you are curious of what country and what job get tipped, do not hesitate to check this website. This website breaks down all the tipping customs in the world, so you should check it out. But why French people think that giving tips here in the States is pretty weird? Well, you have to know that in France, tipping is an option. If you go in a restaurant to France, for example, you're going to tip 1 or 2 euro, but it's not mandatory, and also it's not even expected by the waiter, simply because the service is already included. However, in the United States, because the system is pretty different, a tip is just expected by the workers. It is expected simply because tipping makes the pay of the worker because the service is not included, which is so confusing, guys. It is so confusing to me. In the US, if the service is good, you should always tip 20 to 25%, especially at a restaurant. First of all, 20 to 25%, it's a lot of money, okay? It's a lot. Tipping used to be 10% like back 10 years ago, and now it's 20%. It doubled. It's just crazy to me. But also, I'm just wondering why the employers don't pay more. The employee include the service fees in the price of the product, and that's it. Then it will be just less confusing. How much you have to tip? 20%. Okay, let's calculate. It's so confusing, guys. Which brings me to not including sales tax. I don't know who thought about the fact that not including sales tax would be a great idea, but this is so confusing. It's always a bad surprise in my opinion whenever you go to a store, for example, and you want to buy something that is normally $10, you end up paying, I don't know, 10, 12 or 10, 15 or 10, 02. Why you just don't put directly the tax into the product price tag? On the product price tag, anyway, you understood me. Okay, even if most of the country, the sales tax are already included in the price, in the US is completely different, and there is a reason why, even if it's still confusing. Simply because in America, the sales tax can vary by county. So cost of a product can be slightly different from a place to another. Also, there are specific taxes laws on what should get sales tax or no, which is confusing. For example, if you order a coffee to go in California, you don't pay sales tax. However, if you sit down at a restaurant to eat, you're going to pay sales tax. Why? The proportion of food, guys, why you eat like you have 10 stomach in your belly. I don't understand. I'm not going to lie to you, it's pretty common for me to order food here in the States and to share it with somebody or to take away this food to eat it later at home, which is not something pretty common in my country. By the way, taking away the leftover to eat throughout the week is super common here in the United States. Meanwhile, in France, if you want a doggy bag, we call that doggy bag. I don't know if you call that a doggy bag in the United States. However, a doggy bag is really not common in France. If you ask for a doggy bag in a restaurant, in plenty of restaurants, they're going to look at you like, what is wrong with you? Also for us as non-American, the size options in US fast food restaurants are so weird and it's so shocking. For example, take a look at this image. Comparing to the size of the drink in America versus in Japan, for example, the medium size in Japan is the same as the small size cup in the United States. However, the medium American cup is almost larger than the Japanese large cup. And it's the same with the majority of European countries. Also, US large cup can be close to 1 liter. 1 liter of soda. Who drinks that? Also, what confuses Europeans whenever we're coming here in the United States is the size of the fruit and the size of the vegetables. Like, I mean, they're just huge and full of water. And you can see that they don't taste anything whenever you go back to Europe. I swear, if you are an American watching this video right now and you already went to Europe, you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that the fruit in the United States has no taste. Prescription drug commercial. Let me tell you something. In France, like everywhere in the world except New Zealand, it is illegal to have prescription drugs commercial. Why? Well, because patients get influenced to take newer, less effective drugs that also cost more. You can also find these ads on a regular television here in America, which is crazy to me. And you can buy some drugs directly in a supermarket. You will never ever see that in France. Ice cube. Why Americans love ice cubes so much? During summer or winter, if you order a drink in America, it usually comes with a ton of ice cubes. Ice cubes are pretty shocking for Europeans who travel here in the United States. Meanwhile, the opposite is also possible because a lot of Americans who come to Europe, especially during summertime, and they order a drink, they will have only like 2 or 3 ice cubes and that's it. So it's confusing for both of our culture. However, personally, whenever I have a cup filled of ice, I feel rot. Whenever I order a drink in America, I have a cup full of ice that takes a lot of place and then I have less beverage in my cup. It's confusing and annoying. So if you are an American, please tell me why y'all using so much ice cubes. Why do you need ice cubes if the drink is already fresh? Why? Next one is football. I mean soccer for Americans. Yes, it's pretty confusing. Not that I barely understand football games here in the United States. I just simply don't understand why y'all call it soccer. And you're not the only country because Australia, Korea, South Africa, and Italy call it also soccer. In France, we're simple, okay? We call it football because you play with your foot, period. But the fact that Americans call it soccer has a real meaning. Oui. Soccer is actually the abbreviation for association football, which is actually the real name of the game. Next one makes me angry. Month before date. Why? You are the only one in the world here in America to do that. Normally, everywhere else is date, month, year. Here in America, it's month, date, year. So confusing, and I'm still doing the mistakes even if I've been here for a long time. So even if it's pretty confusing for the rest of the world, there is not really an explanation of why Americans write down the dates like that. It's maybe because they say September 1st, October 1st, November 1st, and not the 1st of September, I guess. Drinking at the age of 21. If you guys didn't know that, here in the United States, you cannot drink alcohol unless you are 21 and up. Meanwhile, almost everywhere is 18 years old and sometimes even 16 years old. But it's so confusing because here you can drive when you're 16 years old. Sometimes you can buy a gun when you are 18 years old. Why you cannot drink alcohol? Personally, I moved here the first time when I was 20 years old. When you are 20 years old in France, you are basically an adult. I was paying my own bills, I had my car, I had my own apartment, and even if I was a student, I was just like living my adult life. And then I came here as an au pair, and it was so confusing because I was used to an adult life in France, and I went back to basically a teenager life. Cannot go out, cannot drink, cannot do this, cannot do that. It was annoying. But even if all of this is pretty annoying, why you cannot drink alcohol when you are under 21 years old here in America? Well, in 1984, the US passed a law called the Drinking Age Act. And also back in the days, you were not considered a grown adult when you were under 21 years old. By the way, for a long time in most of the world, the majority was at 21 years old. Last one is vacation day. I have to say that in France, we're quite lucky. We have 35 hours work week, 5 weeks of paid vacation, long maternity leaves. We have also a lot of holidays, and we have sick days off. Meanwhile, Americans, you tend to work way more hours than us in France, and you have way less vacation. I think on the average, y'all have 12 days of vacation per year. Is that even legal? You can barely rest from the whole year of work with 12 days of vacation. I mean, like 12 days, you can barely enjoy free time, see your family, rest, and getting ready for a whole nother year. It's crazy. Also, even if Americans have only 12 days of vacations, usually they take only 10 days on these 12 days. Why don't you use all your vacation? This is weird. I think the concept of I live to go to work is a bit much to understand for me here as a French. But even if they have vacations, Americans don't travel much internationally. Well, maybe more these past couple years because Europe is kind of trending on social media. But usually Americans don't have passport. A majority of Americans don't have any passport. Also, the US is huge, it's bigger than Europe, so you can travel in the same country and just enjoying your vacation in your country. They don't usually go that far because first of all, they don't have time. Also, sometimes they're afraid of going abroad because some of them never been abroad before. And I can understand that because if you have only 10 days of vacation per year, you better enjoy in a resort and really relax than just like going visit and getting tired from a European trip. And that's why y'all love going on a cruise. It makes sense. Y'all go on a cruise for a week, enjoying the fact that you cannot do anything for a whole week. Just put your brain outside of your cabeza for like a week. You leave your brain in the port. You're just enjoying stress-free, and you visit different countries in a week, and everything is included. Genius. But even if I can understand the American system, it is still shocking for me as a European. And also, I don't think working that much is pretty healthy because we're not meant as humans to work all the time. We need some hobbies, we need some days off because otherwise we're just like going to be overwhelmed, or it's going to be too much. We're going to do a burnout. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know in the comment section where you are from. Are you from the US? Are you from outside of the US? If you are from Europe or from France, please let me know if you agree with these topics and if you like this video. And if you're an American, please don't hate me, okay? It's just weird for me. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out. And like I say in French all the time, à la prochaine. Ciao!